Hello! So I've been playing quite a lot of the Hardline Multiplayer and I thought it's time for me to give you my opinion on it. Hardline is a nice idea, but it's let down because Visceral didn't have enough faith in their own cops and robbers theme. Hardline is trying to be all things to all people, and it's really not anything to anybody. The prime example of that is the game modes. So we were sold Hardline with 8 game modes. But I'm going to discount 3 of those because 2 of them are Conquest. Conquest Large, Conquest Small. They're put in because it's a battlefield game. But because they've scaled down all the vehicles and all the weapons, it just doesn't feel like a battlefield game, and Conquest Large just really doesn't work. Third one of those is Team Deathmatch. Now, Team Deathmatch has been in every first-person shooter for donkey's years, but Visceral have blown it big time because they've not taken enemy players into account when you spawn. So you can spawn a few feet away from an enemy pointing a gun at you. So that leaves us with 5 game modes, but I'm going to discard another 2 of those, Rescue and Crosshair, because those are bizarrely 5v5 competitive modes, and they weren't designed for us. Crosshair and Rescue were specifically designed for the esports scene. They're designed for organised squads of 5 players on TeamSpeak all working together. They do not work when 5 random people join a team and start playing. There's no matchmaking in the system, and you can join the rounds in the middle. Battlefield 4 developed its own 5v5 gaming mode called Squad Obliteration, but they didn't sell it to us as a Battlefield game, they slipped it in for free as an add-on. What Visceral have done is made us pay for the development of their esport game modes by including them in the standard game. So that leaves us with 3 game modes. First of those is Blood Money. Now Blood Money works on some maps, but it really doesn't work on the small scale infantry only maps, because all it does is turn into Team Deathmatch. Admittedly, it's better than Team Deathmatch because the spawns work, but when you reduce the scale of Blood Money, you just lose all the objective play. When it's larger scale with vehicles in it, it's a much better mode. So if they do a bit of work on Blood Money, it could work across the board. It's a similar story for Hotwire. Hotwire is a really good mode, but it's ruined by some of the game mechanics. Once everybody unlocks RPGs in the boots of their cars and breaching charges and sabotage charges and laser trip mines, then Hotwire becomes no fun because your car drives down a street and is blown up. It's a lot more fun when it's driving down the street, hanging out the windows, shooting at cars with guns, or maybe even grenade launchers. But the amount of RPGs that have suddenly appeared in Hotwire just spoils the game completely. So maybe add another battle pickup of an RPG on there, but remove the RPGs from the boots of cars in Hotwire. But the major fault with Hotwire at the moment is just how abusable its scoring system is. You can sit in the back of a car doing nothing and score points and earn money. If you want to know just how abusable that system is, I used the 200% objective boost that I got in my Battlefield Veteran Battle Pack, went into standard 32 player Hotwire games, and in the half an hour that boost lasted, I got to level 18 and had $160,000 in my bank account. And what did I do to earn that? Well, I sat in the back of cars with a repair torch going. That's it. I just got driven around by somebody else while I used the repair torch constantly. That got me a ton of money and a ton of points. And that's by far the least of the abuses that there are in Hotwire. There are already servers that are kicking people for killing in Hotwire mode. They just drive around in cars with nobody shooting at anybody else. They get a load of points and a load of money, and that's all they do. And so that leaves us with just 1 game mode, Heist. The only proper cops and robbers game mode in Hardline. Its asymmetrical gameplay lets the robbers act like robbers and the cops act like cops. And it's a really good game mode. It splits the action up because there's 2 objectives to attack at the start, and then the game mode picks 2 out of 3 of the drop-off locations. So it's a really dynamic game mode. Spawn vehicles and satellite phones and even where your squad mates are makes a really big difference on the tactics in that mode. But the tactics aren't so complicated that a bunch of random people can't get together and play the objective well. Heist is the only game mode that lives up to that cops and robbers theme that Visceral sold us. Hotwire could easily have been asymmetrical as well. You simply don't let the cops get into the cars, so the cops can run up to the cars and capture them while they're stationary, but the robbers can get into the cars and drive them around and capture them. So the robbers have to attack the stationary cars, get in them and drive them around. The cops have to defend the stationary cars and take out any cars that are driving around. It would be a really good asymmetrical game mode. Where Visceral have gone for asymmetry is the weapons, and that really doesn't work, because they haven't thought about the weapon balance. We've all seen from Battlefield 4 that there'll be one gun that everybody generally accepts is the best in its class. And it's the same for Battlefield Hardline. The problem that Hardline has is that it might be a weapon that's on the other team. You might not have access to the best weapon for your class. Take the K10, which is available for the cops mechanics, but there's nothing comparable on the robbers side. If you look at the robbers' choice of SMGs, then arguably the MP5K is the best choice they have. Is the Stakeout really comparable to the Spaz 12? And what is the cops version of the AKM? There isn't one. The cops have no hard-hitting assault rifle. Visceral balanced out the assault rifles a bit by moving the M416 and the M16A3 onto opposite sides, but there's no hard-hitting AKM equivalent on the cop side, and it's not like there aren't plenty of modern 7.62 rifles out there. The solution to this is simple. So for assault rifles, you would have one set of assault rifle stats, but they'd be skinned differently for the cops and robbers. You'd still get that different look and feel for the cops guns and the robbers guns, but stats wise and gameplay wise they would be balanced. The other thing I really don't like about Battlefield Hardline is the unlock grind. In a normal Battlefield game, you play the game and guns unlock as you play. Hardline has replaced this with a grinding system. You have to grind points to get levels, you have to grind dollars to buy weapons and attachments and gadgets and vehicle upgrades. You have to grind kills so you can unlock the ability to buy those attachments. You have to grind to get assignments because those are the most tedious things I have ever seen in a Battlefield game. And you have to do it twice because of course you've got to get guns for both teams. 1,250 kills to get a weapon license to unlock the K10 to be on the robbers side. Do you know how many weapons I would have earned a weapon license for in Battlefield 4? None. The highest kills I've got are with the AWS and the M416 at around 750. I've quite a lot of guns at 500 and an awful lot of guns at 250 and above. I like to try out all the guns in the game, and to try them out properly you need to put the attachments on them. And in Battlefield, yeah, you've got to go out and get some kills, but it's not a big deal. In Hardline you've got to grind everything, and if you want to do that for every gun in the game, well, even though there aren't that many guns in the game, it's still going to take you a while. Considering there are so few guns in the game, how did they manage to make so many of them so bad? There are guns in this game that are just worthless and you would never use. Very little variety in the type of guns. So, if you're playing a mechanic, there are 7 guns available to you. But really, there's only 4 available to you in any one game. Compare that to the engineer in Battlefield 4, who's got 8 SMGs and can use any of them. But he's also got the carbines, the shotguns and the DMRs. So you can vary up your gameplay. In Hardline there's no way to vary a mechanic's gameplay, he just has to play with an SMG. It's even worse for the operative because really there's only 2 guns worth using, the M16A3 or the M416. Also gets a bit more of a varied choice because he's got the shotguns and the battle rifles. Similarly for the professional, got the bolt action snipers, semi-auto snipers and the machine pistols. but the operative and the mechanic have just got dull, samey choices. You're just going to use the same guns over and over again. And in the end, Visceral's lack of experience at making a multiplayer shooter shows through. Worse than that, it's like Visceral have never played a multiplayer shooter. If you'd played Battlefield 4 for the last year, you would know exactly the pitfalls that Hardline was about to fall into. I have fun playing Hardline, but I restrict it to 2 modes, Heist and Hotwire. Is it a coincidence that those are the 2 modes that were in the beta? I don't think it was. For the rest of the game modes, it really just feels like a scaled down version of Battlefield. And although that's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just been poorly executed in lots of ways. The elements of Hardline that are the most fun, Heist and Hotwire, could have been put into a Battlefield 4 DLC. Heist could be breaking into bunkers to steal secret military technology and get it away to your side. Hotwire could simply be trying to capture experimental vehicles that are on a battlefield. For the rest of the Hardline experience, that thin smearing of cops and robbers over the top really doesn't justify it being a AAA full price release. Maybe it's time we just bring back expansion packs. Bad Company 2 Vietnam was an expansion pack, and nobody's ever said that that was a bad game that under-delivered. It was pretty much a separate game with a separate theme, but they didn't charge us the full price again. So in conclusion, Battlefield Hardline, it's a limited reworking of Battlefield, and it just doesn't justify its price. It's half the game that Battlefield 4 is, and should probably be half the price Battlefield 4 is. If you're enjoying Battlefield Hardline, then carry on playing it. But personally, it's going to be something I might drop into once or twice a week. It's not going to replace Battlefield 4. Thanks for watching.